Now that your low side flashings are attached, the panels can be installed. Vertical seam panels are installed left to right as viewed from the eave. The overlap rib should be on the left, while the underlap rib is on the right. Here's a tip to help orient your panels correctly. The underlap rib is typically a different color than the exposed side of the panel, while the overlap rib is always the same color. Field notch the overlap and underlap ribs of the panel up to 1.5 inches from the end of the panel. To get a consistent bend on the hem, use a 15.25 inch hemming block for a 16-inch panel. Place a continuous bead of the tube sealant inside the open hem. To finish, slide the vertical seam panel toward the high end of the roof onto the extended eave or the open hem of the offset cleat. Make sure the offset cleat is fully engaged into the vertical seam panel. If you're using wall panels, you must consider using additional overhang. The high side condition will be a fixing point for the panel. You should install one pancake head wood screw to keep the panel from sliding down the roof. Installing remaining panels. Once the first panel has been installed, roll the first clip into lock position over the underlap rib of the panel. Then, fasten the vertical seam clip to the deck with the proper type and number of fasteners. If a fastener strips out, remove the clip and reposition it so the fastener can drill a new hole at least 3/8 of an inch from the stripped hole, or install an oversized fastener into the stripped hole. Failure to do this will impact the system's ability to resist the applied loads, so make sure the installation is secure. For certain building codes and state or county specifications, special clip spacing may be required. Metal Sales can provide specific clip and fastener spacing. Before you install the second vertical seam panel, tube sealant must be placed on the underlap rib of the first panel at the eave. Place the second panel on top of the previously installed panel so that the second hem panel can be engaged with the offset cleat. Next, begin snapping the panels together, working from eave to peak. It is critical that panels only be snapped in one direction. Repeat this process for the remaining panels. If you are installing vertical seam panels and come to a valley condition, lay the panel down at the valley and mark the panel ribs to be cut. Snap a chalk line for the diagonal cut of the pan of the panel 2 inches from the panel ribs. Bend the panel hem around and install a continuous bead of tube sealant in the open hem. Slide the panel into the offset cleat at the valley and snap into place. Install panel clips. Once the panels are properly snapped into place, be sure to clean any debris or excess sealant before continuing the next section of the roof. The size and location of all roof penetrations should always be an important consideration. Areas around roof vents or rooftop units may show that corrosive fumes are emitted from a process within a building. In the following example, the procedures are for vent pipes 6 inches or less and not transmitting extremely hot or caustic materials. Remember, always abide by local plumbing codes when you're installing vent pipes. The vent pipe must extend through the flat of the roof panel. If the vent pipe extension cannot be raised directly into the flat of the new roof panel, use elbows to offset the pipe. Determine the size and length of the vent pipe to be raised. Take the appropriate measurements for the vent location and mark them on the vertical seam panel. When cutting the panel for the penetration, make the hole 1/2 inch larger in radius than the pipe. This will allow the panel to expand and contract around the penetration. Cut the top of the rubber roof jack so that it fits snug on the pipe. Slide the rubber roof jack onto the pipe all the way down until it is setting on the roof panel. If you are installing a square-based rubber roof jack, make sure you turn it diamond-shaped so the water runs around the side. Flip the rubber roof jack up so that you can install tube sealant to the underside at the pipe. Flip the rubber roof jack back down flush with the panel. Bend up the base tabs of the rubber roof jack one side at a time and apply a bead of tube sealant. Repeat this with the other three sides of the rubber roof jack. Attach the base of the rubber roof jack to the panel using stitch fasteners. Apply tube sealant to the top of the rubber roof jack where it meets the pipe. Z-closure preparation. Field cut the top and bottom tabs of the Z-closure 1 inch from the end. Remove the top and bottom tabs and bend the remaining flap over. The Z-closure should be cut to fit between the panel ribs with a 1-inch tab on each end. Again, cut the tabs and bend the flap. Next, we're going to look at installing the peak flashing. Place a row of double bead tape sealant across the panel and over each panel rib approximately 2 inches from the panel end. Remember, before proceeding, make sure the Z-closure placement will accommodate the peak cover. Once the panels have been installed, field cut the vertical seam Z-closure to fit between the panel ribs. Install the Z-closure in the pan of the panel on the double bead tape sealant. Fasten the Z-closure through the panel with pancake head wood screws using 4 per panel. Apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the top leg of the Z-closure, filling any gaps or openings around the panel ribs with tube sealant. Position and install the cleat to the wall with the appropriate fastener 1 foot on center. Make sure the cleat allows for proper peak attachments. Install the peak flashing by sliding the open hem onto the cleat and then attach it to the Z-closure with pop rivets, 3 per panel. Ridge condition installation. Install the vertical seam Z-closures over double bead tape sealant, the same as we did with the peak flashing, except that we'll do it on both sides of the ridge. Be sure the Z-closure placement will accommodate the 11-inch ridge hip cover. Now, apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the top leg of the Z-closure, filling any gaps or openings around the panel ribs with tube sealant. Position and install the 11-inch ridge hip cover flashing to the Z-closure with pop rivets. Vented ridge condition installation. Once the vertical seam Z-closures have been installed between the rib panels on both sides of the vented ridge, install the vent drip, vent material, and offset cleat with a 2-inch deck screw, 1 foot on center. Place the vented ridge cover on the offset cleat and attach with pop rivets at 1 foot on center. Rake condition installation. We are going to show the rake condition with the Z-closure application. On panel runs greater than 20 feet, a floating rake Z may be required to allow for thermal expansion. See the vertical seam install guide for further information. To start off, position and install the cleat to the wall with the appropriate fastener 1 foot on center, allowing for the rake flashing to fit over top of the Z-closure flashing. Apply a row of double bead tape sealant, then place in the pan of the panel at the edge of the roof. Fasten with pancake head wood screws 1 foot on center up the rake. Next, apply a row of double bead tape sealant to the top leg of the Z-closure. Install the rake by sliding the open hem onto the cleat and then attaching it to the Z-closure with pop rivets at 1 foot on center. High side parapet condition installation. Like before, once panels have been installed, Place a row of double bead tape sealant across the panel and over each panel rib approximately 2 inches from the panel end. Field cut the vertical seam Z-closure to fit between the panel ribs. Remember, before you start, make sure the Z-closure placement will accommodate pitch brake flashing. Install the field cut Z-closure. Fasten the Z-closure through the panel with pancake head wood screws, using 4 per panel. Next, apply a row of double bead tape sealant across the top leg of the Z-closure, making sure to fill any gaps or openings around the panel ribs with tube sealant. Position and install pitch brake flashing to the Z-closure with pop rivets. Install the counter flashing, reglet, or wall panel and fasten to the parapet wall with the appropriate fastener, 1 foot on center. If counter flashing or reglet is used, seal it to the parapet wall with tube sealant. If 2 or more flashings are required, lap the flashing over the previously installed flashing by a minimum of 2 inches. Place a bead of tube sealant between the flashings and secure with pop rivets 2½ inches on center. Raked parapet condition installation. Apply a row of double bead tape sealant to the pan of the panel along the wall. Place the Z-closure on the double bead tape sealant and fasten with pancake head wood screws 1 foot on center. If you are installing the rake parapet flashing around a corner, cut the pitch brake flashing so that the rake parapet flashing laps on top of it. Apply tube sealant as shown. Cut the rake parapet flashing to lap over the Z-closure and pitch brake flashing at the corner. Strippable film. Strippable film is applied to the vertical seam panels and trim to protect them during shipping and installation. The strippable film should be removed during the installation process. Overexposure to the sun will cause the strippable film to permanently adhere to the panels and trim. Care and maintenance. Even though pre-painted finishes will last many years, it may be desirable to thoroughly clean them. In many cases, simply washing the building with plain water using a hose or a pressure sprayer will be adequate. In areas where heavy dirt deposits dull the surface, a cloth or soft bristle brush and solution of water and detergent may be used. Rinse with water and you should be done. Never use wire brushes, abrasives, or cleaning tools. These will damage the coating surface. Strong solvents and abrasive cleaners should be avoided. Most organic solvents are flammable and toxic and must be handled accordingly. You should have a good handle on the many ways a Metal Sales vertical seam roof works. Our products not only offer flexible options and smart construction, but they are also durable and dependable. And your Metal Sales representative is always available to answer any questions. We hope you've enjoyed this instructional video. Remember to keep your vertical seam install guide on hand for quick and easy reference when needed. We're proud of our product, and we're happy to provide cover and shelter for buildings all across the United States. Thanks again for your support and enthusiasm for Metal Sales vertical seam roofs.